The inheritance betrayal. My brother texted me, "Dad always loved you more. Time for some payback." I responded, "Noted." Then I called my lawyer and revoked his access to the family trust. Now he's homeless and begging me to reconsider. I'm 42, and my younger brother Jake is 39. We lost our father 6 months ago to cancer. Dad was a successful contractor who built a small empire of rental properties and left everything in a trust with me as the primary beneficiary and Jake as a secondary. Dad's reasoning was simple. I had always been responsible with money, while Jake had a history of gambling and poor financial decisions. The arrangement was fair, I thought. Jake would receive a monthly allowance of $3,000 from the trust, plus free housing in one of Dad's rental properties. Not enough to live lavishly, but enough to maintain a comfortable lifestyle if he was smart about it. I managed the properties and reinvested the profits back into the trust. For the first few months after Dad's funeral, everything seemed fine. Jake moved into the nicest rental property, a 3-bedroom house in a good neighborhood. He seemed grateful and even helped me with some of the property maintenance work. We had dinner together once a week, and I thought we were closer than we'd been in years. That illusion shattered last Tuesday. I was reviewing the trust's quarterly reports when my phone buzzed. Text from Jake. "Michael, I've been thinking about Dad's will. It's not fair that you got everything while I got scraps. Dad always loved you more, and now you're using that to control me. I'm done being your charity case. Time for some payback." I stared at the message for a long moment. After everything I'd done to make sure he was taken care of, after all the times I'd covered for his mistakes over the years, this was his response. My reply was simple. "Noted." Then I called my lawyer. "Robert, I need to discuss the Henderson Family Trust. What are my options if I want to modify Jake's benefits?" "Well, Michael, as the primary trustee, you have broad discretionary powers. Your father specifically included language that allows you to reduce or eliminate distributions if you determine they're not in the best interest of the beneficiary or the trust. What would that process look like?" "I'd need to draft a formal amendment. Given Jake's history with gambling and financial irresponsibility, plus any evidence of him acting against the trust's interests, it would be legally sound. When do you want to move forward?" "Now." By Thursday, the paperwork was complete. Jake's monthly allowance was terminated, and he had 30 days to vacate the rental property. The trust would no longer provide him with any benefits. I had the documents hand-delivered to his house. My phone started ringing within an hour. "Michael, what the hell is this? You can't just cut me off. Jake, you made it clear you weren't happy with the arrangement. I'm freeing you from being my charity case." I was angry. "I didn't mean I wanted you to take everything away. You said Dad always loved me more and that you wanted payback. Well, you got it. Now you're truly independent. This is insane. I have nowhere to go. You're 39 years old, Jake. Figure it out like any other adult." He hung up, but the calls kept coming. I stopped answering after the 5th one. Update 1, Week 2. Jake tried every angle he could think of. He showed up at my office building, demanding to speak with me. Security escorted him out when he started yelling in the lobby. He contacted our mutual friends, telling them I was being vindictive and cruel. Most of them knew Jake's history, though, and weren't particularly sympathetic. The most revealing conversation came when he called our cousin Sarah, who then called me. "Michael, Jake told me what happened. He's saying you stole his inheritance." "Sarah, Jake was receiving $3,000 a month plus free housing from a trust our father set up. He texted me that he was done being my charity case and wanted payback. I gave him what he asked for. But he's about to be homeless. He's had 2 weeks to figure out his living situation. He's chosen to spend that time complaining instead of apartment hunting. Can't you just reinstate his benefits? He's family. He was family when he decided to bite the hand that fed him. Actions have consequences, Sarah." Jake's financial reality hit hard. His part-time job at an auto parts store paid minimum wage. He'd been using his trust money to fund his lifestyle and hadn't saved anything. When his 30 days were up, he moved into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. He tried one more desperate approach. He contacted a lawyer to contest the trust modifications. The lawyer took one look at the documents and Jake's history, then told him he didn't have a case. Dad's will was ironclad, and I had acted well within my authority as trustee. Update 2, Month 2. The motel kicked Jake out after he couldn't pay for another week. He started sleeping in his car, a 2015 Honda Civic that was falling apart. He'd been using the trust money to make the payments, and now he was behind. He swallowed his pride and called me. Michael, I'm living in my car. I haven't eaten a real meal in 3 days. Please, I'm begging you. Jake, you said you were done being my charity case. I was wrong. I was angry about something else that day. My ex-girlfriend had been giving me grief about money. I took it out on you. What were you angry about specifically? Long pause. She said I was pathetic for living off my dead father's money instead of making something of myself. So instead of proving her wrong, you decided to blame me for your situation? I know how it sounds, but I was hurt. I felt like everyone saw me as the screw-up brother. Jake, I spent years covering for your mistakes. I never made you feel like a screw-up. I set up your trust benefits to help you build a stable life. You threw that away over wounded pride. I'll do anything to make this right, Michael. I'll work for you. I'll manage properties. I'll prove I can be responsible. You had your chance to prove that. You chose to declare war instead. He started crying. I'm your brother, Michael. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything, Jake. Until you decided it didn't. I hung up and blocked his number. Update 3, month 3. Jake's situation deteriorated rapidly. His car was repossessed. He was staying in homeless shelters and couch surfing with acquaintances. His appearance became increasingly disheveled. Several people in our small town had seen him and called me with updates. The most pathetic attempt came when he showed up at Dad's grave on what would have been his 65th birthday. I was there laying flowers, and Jake appeared looking like he hadn't showered in days. Michael, I need to tell you something. I've been thinking about Dad a lot lately. Jake, you're trespassing on private property. This is a family plot. I am family. Family doesn't threaten each other over money, Jake. I found some of Dad's old letters. He wrote about wanting us to take care of each other. How would he feel about you letting me live on the streets? How would he feel about you threatening his other son over the inheritance he carefully planned? Jake pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. This is a letter he wrote to me before he died. He said he was worried about my finances, but that you'd always look out for me. I took the letter and read it. Dad had indeed written about his concerns for Jake and his hope that I'd help guide him towards stability. Dad also wrote specific instructions for the trust, Jake. He gave me discretionary authority because he knew you might not always make good choices. This is me using that authority. He didn't mean for you to cut me off completely. He also didn't mean for you to threaten me and demand payback. But here we are. Jake fell to his knees next to Dad's headstone. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry. I was jealous and stupid. Please give me another chance. Jake, I gave you chances for 39 years. I'm done. I left him there crying at Dad's grave. Update 4, month 4. The breaking point came when Jake tried to break into one of the rental properties. A neighbor called the police, and Jake was arrested for attempted burglary. He spent 2 nights in jail before being released on his own recognizance. The police report was enlightening. Jake had told the officers that he was reclaiming his inheritance and that the property rightfully belonged to him. He'd been drinking and wasn't making much sense, but his intent was clear. This crossed a line from pathetic to criminal. I called Robert again. I need a restraining order against Jake. He's escalating from harassment to property crimes. Given the police report and his pattern of behavior, that shouldn't be difficult. Do you want to press charges for the attempted break-in? Yes. It's time he faced real consequences. The restraining order was approved within 48 hours. Jake was prohibited from coming within 500 feet of me, my home, my office, or any of the trust properties. Violation would result in immediate arrest. When Jake was served with the papers, he called from a payphone outside the courthouse. Michael, you're really going to have me arrested if I try to talk to you? I'm going to have you arrested if you violate a court order, Jake. There's a difference. This is insane. I'm not dangerous. You try to break into my property. That's literally the definition of dangerous. I was desperate. I thought maybe if I stayed in the house for a few days, you'd realize how bad things had gotten. I realize exactly how bad things have gotten. That's why there's a restraining order. What do you want from me? What will it take? Nothing, Jake. There's nothing you can do. You made your choice when you sent that text. Every action since then has just confirmed that it was the right choice. He hung up without another word. Update 5, month 6. Jake disappeared for about a month. I heard through the grapevine that he'd left town, possibly to stay with some distant relatives in another state. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Last week, Jake returned. He'd somehow gotten cleaned up, found decent clothes, and was trying to present himself as a changed man. He'd been attending AA meetings, though he'd never admitted to having a drinking problem before, and claimed to have found religion. He tried to approach me through our pastor, asking for mediation. Pastor Williams called me personally. "Michael, Jake came to see me yesterday. He seems genuinely remorseful and wants to make amends. Pastor Williams, I appreciate your concern, but Jake has a restraining order against him. He's legally prohibited from trying to contact me through third parties. He mentioned that. He's hoping you might consider dropping the restraining order so you two can have a proper conversation. With respect, Pastor, Jake has had multiple opportunities to have proper conversations. He chose threats instead. People can change, Michael. Forgiveness is a cornerstone of our faith. Forgiveness doesn't require me to restore someone's access to money they threatened me over. Jake is welcome to his redemption arc, but it doesn't include the family trust." Pastor Williams tried to argue further, but I ended the call politely but firmly. Final update, month 7. Yesterday, I received a certified letter. Jake had found a legal aid attorney who was willing to take his case pro bono. They were challenging the trust modifications on grounds of breach of fiduciary duty and emotional distress. I forwarded the letter to Robert, who called me back within an hour, laughing. "Michael, this is the legal equivalent of a Hail Mary pass. Jake's attorney is clearly inexperienced with trust law. Your fathers will explicitly granted you discretionary authority over distributions. Jake's own documented threats provide clear justification for your actions. So they have no case? They have less than no case. If they actually file this lawsuit, I'll motion for sanctions against the attorney for filing a frivolous claim. Jake will end up owing court costs and attorney fees. Let them file it then. Maybe paying legal fees will teach Jake the value of the money he threw away." The lawsuit was filed 3 days ago. True to his word, Robert immediately filed a motion for sanctions and dismissal. The judge scheduled a hearing for next week. This morning, Jake's attorney called Robert asking if we'd be willing to settle out of court. Jake was apparently willing to drop the lawsuit in exchange for having his trust benefits restored at a reduced amount. Robert called me with their offer. Jake's attorney says he'll accept $1,000 a month and housing in the cheapest rental property. They're calling it compromise. What did you tell them? I told them to get comfortable with the sanctions hearing. Jake chose to escalate this to the legal system. Now he gets to see how that plays out. Good. I'm done with compromises. The real irony is that Jake's text message started all of this. He said Dad always loved me more and that he wanted payback. The truth is, Dad loved us both, but he recognized our different personalities and planned accordingly. Jake proved Dad's judgment was correct. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even disappointed. I'm just tired of pretending that blood relation excuses terrible behavior. Jake made his bed with that text message. Now he gets to lie in it. The trust is thriving without Jake's monthly drain on resources. I've been able to expand the property portfolio and increase the trust's value significantly. Dad would be proud of what I've built. As for Jake, he's learning that actions have consequences. He wanted payback, and he got it. Just not the way he expected. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be treated poorly and letting people face the natural results of their choices. Jake chose to bite the hand that fed him. Now he gets to figure out how to feed himself. The hearing is next week. I'm not worried about the outcome. The law is clear, the documentation is solid, and Jake's behavior speaks for itself. Justice isn't always swift, but it's usually certain. Jake is about to learn that lesson the hard way.